Immediately afterwards, I decided I did not want to be a girl. I wanted to do everything I could to be a boy because I did not want that to happen to me again. When I started first grade, my teacher was very concerned about me because my behavior had changed so much. I went from a quirky, sweet little girl to a kid who insisted that she was a boy, who wanted to use the boys' bathroom, who wanted to be called by Timothy, who wanted to be considered like the other boys and play with the other boys. Thankfully, my teacher called the school psychologist, and the school psychologist assessed me and confirmed the fact that I wanted to be a boy, met with my parents and my teacher, and talked about ways to help me resolve those feelings. Rather than encouraging the self-hatred I had, the school psychologist recognized that the self-hatred was a coping mechanism, a result of the sexual assault. During that time, I hated myself so much, sometimes I would take a rock and pound my crotch because I had so much anger at myself for what happened. Since children can no longer receive therapy that will help them understand the underlying causes of their gender dysphoria, of their trans identity, they will be much more likely now to medically transition. And I want to assure you that if I had had the option when I was in first grade to start puberty blockers, I would have started them in a second without considering the side effects. It wouldn't have mattered. Anything just to not be a girl, I would have done it. Likely, I would have started cross-sex hormones shortly thereafter, which would have caused my body to form male sex traits instead of female sex traits. I likely would have agreed to a double mastectomy, removing my healthy breast tissue as soon as I could have talked a doctor into doing it. It is heartbreaking to me that that's happening now, that children so young as 8 years old, are getting puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Girls as young as 13 are having double mastectomies, and boys as young as 16 are having their testicles removed, all because they identify as a transgender child. And yet, there is no test for transgenderness. There's no test to determine which child can resolve those trans feelings and which child will grow up and still have those feelings. But we do know that the vast majority of children with trans identity will outgrow them if they're allowed to naturally progress through adolescence. These treatments prevent that. They prevent them from naturally progressing through adolescence. They push their bodies to become dysfunctional and unhealthy. Oftentimes, girls who start on puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones, their uterus atrophies and it has to be removed, rendering them permanently infertile. Boys who have their testicles removed will never be able to have the option to have children. These medical procedures are invasive and unproven. They have not been approved by the American Medical Association or the American Psychiatric Association as treatments for gender dysphoria. We are experimenting on our children. They are our guinea pigs, and we need to stop. We need to stop this craziness. The vast majority of these children will have their gender dysphoria resolved when they go through adolescence. Please vote to stop these harmful treatments. Please give these kids time so that they can have their transgender feelings resolved. So many people have reached out to me since I started talking about my experience and saying that they too were sexually assaulted, and developed a trans identity in order to cope with their trauma. We are going to encourage these children to hate the bodies that they feel like betrayed them. We're gonna reinforce that misbelief. Sorry. Rather than giving them time to process what happened to them. These girls are likely going to be pushed into medical treatments that will cause them to further bury that trauma so that they will not be able to process it, and they will never really understand why they have such feelings of self-hatred. So please, save our kids. Vote to support this bill that would prevent children from receiving these treatments until they're old enough to understand what these treatments will do to their bodies. Thank you.